Robbie asks, I want to be a motivational speaker, but I'm only 21 years old and I don't really know what to do. What would you advise me? I feel like my age is an obstacle. Good question, Robbie. I'm not 21. I do look kind of young, you know. It's funny, I was having food. I was at a restaurant a few weeks ago. And 2 days in a row in different restaurants, people came up. I was with my parents and they asked, how old are you? And it was funny because like they thought I was 19 years old. One day they said I was 19, and at another restaurant they said I was 20. I said, no, I'm 29. So, Robbie, you're 21 years old and you feel like your age is an obstacle. Okay, so my advice is, so it's funny you asked the question because I remember exactly when I started in my French business, I was actually 21, it was in 2007. And I had issues, you know, I had issues at the beginning when people would find my age out, right? When people would know how old I was, there would be that objection of, you're only 21. So the best way, what we did, the best way I found is really to put even more content out. I remember in 2008, I was 22, in 2008, I would do, for weeks and weeks and weeks, I would do live streams. This was way before Periscope and all these, you know, all the tools that make it really easy to broadcast. I think we use Ustream or Livestream, and I would do hours and hours and hours of just, you know, broadcast, free content, and Q&A, kind of like what we're doing now. But it was amazing because, you know, when you do Q&A, especially live Q&A, people can test you out, you know, and so it was funny because I remember it was 22, and I did a broadcast, I think it started at 5 p.m., 5 or 6 p.m., and it ended at 2 a.m. So we went for like 7 or 8 hours, and then a really good friend of mine, I told him, you know, we went on this marathon for 8 hours, and then, you know, he's also very competitive, and he topped it the week after that. He did like 9 hours or something. So literally 8 hours nonstop. I just had water. Every couple hours I would just go to the bathroom and just do Q&A with my list. So after a few sessions like that, it was difficult for anyone to say this guy doesn't know what he's talking about, just because I could jam. And, you know, I was very honest in the sense that if I don't know the answer to something, I'll say, you know, I'm not the best guy to ask for that. But if I know the answer, if it's about marketing or sales, I could pretty much just, you know, give seminars about it. So I think the number one way is just to prove your value. That's what I would do. That's what I did. And until people take you seriously, until you can really show that, wow, you know, I've done hours and hours and hours of live broadcasts, it's, you know, it will be an obstacle. And the only way you can counter it and actually make, you know, kind of like make a brand out of it, out of the fact that you're really young, is by putting as much content out for free. And that comes back to the question from Alex. You know, it comes back to, do you have the goods? Do you have the skills? Do you have the chops? If you do have the skills, broadcast it. So again, age is not an issue if you do the right things. You know, because today people are used to seeing young kids making billions. I mean, look at Mark Zuckerberg with Facebook. You know, this Zuckerberg is probably the biggest example, but there's dozens of people, you know, dozens of entrepreneurs who built million-dollar companies or exited for hundreds of millions in the early 20s. So age is not as much of an obstacle as it was maybe 10, 20 years ago. But still, today you need to prove. You need to prove that you have the goods. So age will not be an issue if you prove that you have the goods.
Go to MatthiasMazur.com to watch the full episode and connect with Matthias on social media. See the links in the description below.